All right. Good evening, board members, Dr. Cruz, district staff. The time is 6 o'clock. This is the 23rd day of July 2025, and I call this regular board meeting of the United ISD School Board of Trustees to order. May the trustees present please announce their name for the record.
Rudy Gonzalez, present.
Elisa Oliveros, present.
Ramiro Vélez III, present.
Javier Montemayor, present. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Agenda item number 2, Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge. Will everyone please rise?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Agenda item number 3, recognitions. Agenda item number 4, public comments.
Yes, Mr. President, we have one signed individual for public comments, Mr. David Perez.
Mr. Perez, good evening, sir.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Cruz, members of the audience. For the record, my name is David Perez, president of the United CTA, 26-year educator with UISD, parent of 3 UISD students, and a UISD taxpayer. I come before you today to speak about First Amendment rights. In my many years of attending board meetings, I have been witnessing many opinions, some positive, some negative. Lately, certain advocacy groups have been most critical of UISD administration, district operations, etc. It had gotten to the point where 2 advocacy members were banned from the district meetings. However, let me be clear. These 2 individuals did not lose their First Amendment rights. They are allowed to speak via email. They can express themselves. I have appeared before this board on numerous occasions, sometimes in support, sometimes to express concerns.
Science reading, 1 per subject area. We do have a PE, a resource, and a U-First teacher. In high school, we're looking at 2 teachers per content area in our main content areas. And then we do have a PATE, a resource, MLC, Spanish, and a PLP platform teacher. And PLP is pretty much an online self-paced program for our students. When we look at STEP intake data, these are the number of students that STEP Academy pretty much registers. Okay, but we call them intakes because there is a process to that. And so in 24-25, we were looking at about 1,283 students. And then the year prior to that, it was 1,154 students.
This is a quick question. This is throughout the year starting at
This
the very
is-
beginning from August, right?
Absolutely, sir, from the beginning to the end. And so in this next slide, I'm kind of giving you information on what it looks like at the very beginning of the school year, because in August, you know, like in the second week, we're looking at smaller numbers. If you notice, we had a total of 143 students, and this was for this past year. Just keep in mind that at STEP, there is a rate of about 84% daily attendance, you know, so that kind of gives you an idea of how many students are there. But then when we're looking at May, and you'll find that April and May are usually our high peak numbers. That kind of goes up to 297, and you will see in the different grade levels, it's pretty steady throughout. 12th grade, you see a little decline there because, of course, kids are at their best behavior. They want to attend prom, graduations, you know, all of that. Moving forward, the number of disciplinary placements by year, and so we were able to give you data for 3 years. So looking at 22-23, we had 1,142 students. Then the following year, it went up a little bit, or I'm sorry, it went down a little bit to 1,113. And then this past year, we're looking at placements of 1,207. When we look at the difference between mandatory and discretionary placements by year, notice that this year we had mandatory placements of about 800 or so, and then discretionaries were about half of that, 399. Then in 23-24, we had almost about the same in the 800s, 820, and for discretionary, 293.
Quick question about discretionary placements. Are you able to give me an example of discretionary placement? Like,
Right here. If you look at this next slide, as a matter of fact, there are some examples of some of your discretionary. So to answer your question, these are some of the things that you'll see. And I'm going to kind of point out the ones that we see that are a little bit higher than others. If you notice, inciting a riot, school disturbance is what you see. From 23-24, we had about 35 cases. This year, it went up to about 56. When we're looking at threats or assisted making threats, notice it was 14 the previous year, and this past year was about 25. And then towards the bottom, some examples of that, your bullying, cyberbullying, those have several cases. You see 19 and 26. But if you want to see like what are some of the areas that give us the most problems are 2 or more fights. We had 72 cases in 23-24, 76 this year. And then the other one is the persistent disruptive misbehavior or your unruly misbehavior. We had 77 cases in 23-24, and this year 109. So those are some examples. These are the ones that probably have the most. Your mandatory, as you can tell, the major ones have been the possession of marijuana with 399 and 385 respectively, and then under the influence, 252, and this year 150.
And so with that number, right, because we do see that the number increased from last year to this year. So would you say, would it be time for there to be a reassessment of district policies as to why our kids are being sent as discretionary? Or is it that maybe we need to reassess the interventions that we're doing? Are you able to provide like a sort of like a progress report to see maybe by fall and winter, so we can maybe decrease in that number of the discretionary? Or do you already have strategies in place?
They're already going to decrease because of the change in law. It's going to decrease significantly.
Yes, but I know there was some, like I know that's only in regards to vaping, right?
Correct.
But there are other incidents where they could be placed as discretionary, correct?
That's correct. And I think for the most part, I can tell you at the campus level, discretionaries, we try to do the best that we can to keep our kids in school, right, in the main campus, because you have accountability, you've got just so many different reasons to try and keep them there. So by the time a student is sent on discretionary, it's because they pretty much have exceeded, the interventions that they can do in school. But can we, do more? Certainly, we can always work on, trying to minimize our discretionary placements. That is something that we're always talking to our administrators about. I know that our discipline management department works very carefully with them, and so discretionary placements are not automatically. They're also kind of screened through that department as well.
Yeah, because if you look at the number, it says the highest one for this year for discretionary was unruly, persistent, disruptive misbehavior, right? That was 109, so that would consist of what, like fights or?
Yes, pretty much. I mean, anything that's not in another category, and it's something that just continues to happen. Kids that have several referrals would fall under the unruly, persistent, disruptive misbehavior.
Okay, so then I guess with these numbers, the majority of our kids are going mandatory, right? That's mandatory placement. That's the marijuana, which that's the legislature that's going to change, correct?
Correct.
So the mandatory should decrease. However, the discretionary is increasing, right? So I think that would be just as far as my concern. I'd like to see if we can track that number in the next school year, right? To see what trend is occurring within our kids, if there's more fights. Do we need to support maybe our campuses more, right? So,
Most
Thank you.
definitely,
Yep,
yes.
Just a quick question. Who decides what's discretionary and what's mandatory? Does the state send something to you guys, or?
Yes, we have guidance that comes through our discipline management department, and so they are pretty much our resource. We do have like handbooks and so forth that are given to the campus, along with training that happens with our discipline management department. So there's a lot of guidance on that.
Thank you.
so with that, with the vaping, right? Because I was reading in legal, I don't know if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that vape e-cigarette, right, the offenses will no longer require automatic placement, which is the mandatory, right? Because it's not THC and it's empty or nicotine. However, if they do have like a vape pen, right? Would they still be sent to STEP for having that, or no?
If they have a vape pen
Yes,
only?
like a vape pen, let's just say it doesn't have nicotine or THC, right? But if it's just the vape pen in itself, would that still be considered as mandatory, or?
I believe it's only if they have a substance. That's the only time that they would become mandatory.
Okay, but do we as a district, do we have a policy, and I'm just, right, for my knowledge, do we have a policy where if a kid gets caught with a vape pen and it doesn't have anything, right? Do they get sent to STEP for that?
Right now, it is my understanding that they will not, if it does not
Have.
meet the, exactly,
Okay,
marijuana,
but-
THC.
I think it will fall under discretionary, it just depends on the circumstances,
I
situation.
don't think there's a way you can even, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think there's a way you can even know if it has nicotine or if it has THC. You're gonna
you
have
don't
to test it.
test.
And that's where the expense comes in, so, but so I don't think it's something that we can actually
Do.
do right then and there.
It's very expensive to test.
And that's actually I hate to say this word, but it's become an epidemic across, not only United, but across, our schools, across the state, across the nation. Vaping is a major problem
Correct.
that we have. And so that's why the numbers are so high, because they're geared for children, they're marketed to attract children, and they're very easy access. And so these kids get them, anywhere.
Easily.
They continue to use them, and I think that's probably why the change in the law, so
And
that we
I
don't
have-
have students going in.
I'm sorry. And if I may, Mr. President, I have another question. So these infractions, right, these are the only ones that are going from in-school, like general population, these are the disciplinary actions, right? Then they're sent to STEP. But are we collecting data in regards to if the kids are committing other offenses while they're in STEP?
We do track, pretty much all of the offenses. Of course, we gave you a sample of what we see is mostly what we're seeing at the campuses, but everything is tracked by our discipline management department.
Okay. And so then on top of these placements, right, let's just say there's a student who went in with unruly, persistent, disruptive behavior, right? So he goes into STEP. I would have liked to see the number here in regards to that, like if there's any repeated offenses at STEP, because I feel like if we're presented that data, then we'd be able to see how best we could support STEP, right? So just for future reference.
Excuse me, for the record, Rebecca Morales. I wanted to add that this is the first year. Sorry, my
Do you need
allergies
water?
are so bad. It happened right when I got on the microphone. I think we had an increase in the number of students that we sent to JJAP. Mr. Hidro can correct me if I'm wrong, because that's another resource that we have. When our students are not complying at JJ, excuse me, that does cost the district money, and we try our best also, and STEP tries their best to make sure that they're providing interventions and support at the campus so that they don't have to go to JJAP. But to answer your question, we do have that support in place. And this year in particular, and we can send you those numbers, we saw an increase in placements from STEP to JJAP because of the actions, some of the actions or infractions that are taking place while the students are at STEP Academy.
Well, that was part of what the U First program was created to address. You know, for years, the district had been sending kids over to the STEP Academy, and we were not addressing the underlying cause as to why they were sent, whether it was a drug addiction, whether it was assaultive behavior. So the U First got created to address that. Now the kids go over there because they're going to matriculate back into the campuses at some point, whether it's 40 days or 90 days. Back then it was 100 days across the board. It didn't matter what the offense was. It was 100 plus days. And so they were not addressing the drug
root cause.
addiction. They were not addressing the assaultive behavior. And that is what the U First was meant to do for the first time offenders.
Right.
Try to, get them back into school early.
Right.
Address their drug problem, address their assaultive behavior, address whatever the issue was, and get them back in.
To reduce the recidivism, right?
To reduce the recidivism.
To make sure that we don't have the same kids going back into the program, and that is something that we have a very strong U First program. As a matter of fact, when House Bill 114 passed, which made e-cigarettes mandatory, we added the counseling sessions with our LCDCs for students. That's not something that we had in place. We recently added that, I want to say a year or two ago, just to, again, make sure that we're bringing in those extra supports. We know there's a problem, and you're right, Mr. Montemayor, the vaping issue is an epidemic. It's not just a UISD concern. It's a statewide concern. It's a nationwide concern. We are trying to be very proactive, I think, at United ISD, trying to use all the resources in our community and as much as we can, investing in our vape detectors. At the end of the day, the problem is so big, and I think that we are, making some strides. This change in the House bill that you were referring to, Ms. Martinez, House Bill 6 actually from this legislative session, which now takes away that mandatory offense. It's a good thing and it's a bad thing. It's a good thing because we obviously don't want to be sending all our students over there. We're trying to make sure that we're helping them and addressing the root cause. The only thing that we're concerned about as far as administration is, it's not going to be that hard consequence that students were getting, some students first. Tough consequence, something they've never had to deal with before, and they learn their lesson. They never do it again. But we have a lot of other students that are already addicted and have a problem, and they may not necessarily get caught at school, but they're already doing it. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. But we know that it's, there's plus and minuses to that, but we're going to definitely keep an eye on that. But to answer your question about the concerns specifically, or the incidents that specifically happen at STEP, I know that they do a really good job in making sure that they support our students. And at the end of the day, if they are having issues, and if we have to, incur those additional costs to send students to JJ, because we want to make sure that STEP is a safe environment as well, then we're doing that.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. The next slide shows placements by month. Okay, so you can kind of see our mandatory and discretionary placements. So if you noticed and it's by year, so you have 23, 24 at the top, and pretty much you'll see that we have spikes in certain areas. The same thing for this school year. So if you notice, if you do a comparison between last year and this school year we had less in the fall, but then you kind of see the spike in the spring, okay? And so mandatory was 808, and then your discretionary was 399 for a total of 1207 for this school year.
And in regards to that, I have a question. So I know that there's a spike, right, between those months. So are we seeing discipline being used just as a tool? You know what? Sometimes kids are, before the break, right, they do get a little crazy and antsy.
Yes.
So would you say that what can we, the board, right? What can we do to support the campuses to alleviate these behaviors? Has the district come up with any strategic planning in regards to that?
In terms of strategic planning, I think what we normally do during these spikes, because you're going to see like March, April, May, a lot of visibility at the campuses. We're there, the campus themselves. So, I mean, those are kind of the things that happen. It's just you will see spikes around March, okay, right before spring break. You're going to see spikes towards the end of the school year. It's just pretty much what happens. I mean, I think we get a lot of support from our board, from our administrative staff in terms of, what we need. So I think it's just really being visible at the campus, and that's what our administrators do. Okay. All right, I'm going to move forward to our number of repeat offenders. So for 24-25, when you're looking at just the number of repeat offenders that we have, that's about 179 students.
And so in regards to that, I'm very passionate about a STEP. I think these are students that face unique challenges, right? And so I do have a question in regards to that, to the repeat offenders. What supports are in place to ensure the successful reintegration into the general population? I know we have the positive behaviors, right, the PBIS. So to get this number to decrease, right, and to provide that support, what else could we do to decrease that?
I think the campus itself does an amazing job with PBIS. That is something that, I have to give a lot of credit to Mr. Hidrogo and his staff. They really work the PBIS system. They even incorporate some of the curriculum in there on a daily basis to kind of work with that. They have their point sheets that they do at the campus level. And of course, we've got all our counseling staff. We do have our PBIS facilitators that assist. So, in terms of that, I think our campuses are doing a very good job. There's always, ways that we can certainly improve, but we know we have the full support of the board. And so if at any point we think, look, this is what we need, we will certainly come up with new ideas presented to you.
And how many people, I'm sorry, how many PBIS do we have in our district? Positions or?
The facilitators?
The facilitators, sorry, yes.
I'm not too sure. 5.
We
We
have
have
5.
5 PBIS facilitators.
And those 5 are separated amongst the high school feeders, correct?
Correct.
And does STEP have a PBIS?
I think we have one that rotates in there as well, once a week.
Okay, and so, I'd love to see again the numbers, right, for next year to see if that's helping our students.
Absolutely.
Maybe we can start tracking that. Maybe we need that person more than just once a week, right? Because again, these are students that are at risk, emotional, drug dependencies, right? So I'd like to see that study done for next year. Or maybe if we can break it down, right, fall and spring, and that way the board, right, we could see the information and support our campuses even more than we already do so.
Definitely, thank you. All right, so looking at UFirst numbers, just so that you can kind of see a comparison between 23-24 and 24-25. At the middle school, they're pretty steady. You had 62 one year, 57 the other. In the high school, 116, and then 152, and a total of 178 and 209. So you don't see, major increases, but, they're pretty steady. HB6, which is the vape e-cigarette, and that's what we were talking about earlier. So now these are your nicotine-only offenses. No longer will require automatic placement at a DAEP. So that's going to be a big change for next year. In 24-25, we saw 159 e-cigarette nicotine cases, and the year prior to that was about 134. Okay.
And I'm sorry, in regards to that, do all our schools have the smoke detectors, or is it just the high schools?
Our high schools, and we've been adding middle schools, and we're in the process of adding a few more middle schools. I think we're up to 3, 4? 5. We're up to 5.
5, okay.
But now, we were using Title IV funding for that initiative, and we don't have that funding right now, so.
Okay. So are we looking into ways to improve that, or to make sure that all
Absolutely.
of
I mean, our goal
campuses-
is to continue to, we probably have to slow down the rate of how we've been, the high schools, especially because we have the high schools and the 9th grade campuses, those were really big investments, and they're very big, buildings, there are a lot more restrooms and locker rooms, and they're pricey. But the intention is to continue to expand And we go with data, so we're driven by data on where we're going to be including more vaping detectors or vape detectors, or where we're, installing at the next campus. We're looking at data to see, where we have the most cases. But the intention is to continue and get to the point where we have all middle schools. We have all high schools, so we have all middle schools as well.
Perfect. And with that, I know title fund, right, federal funding, everybody is stressing out about it. So in regards to that, right, can we as the board again receive, right, what intentions and what plans you all have in regards to making sure that mostly, if not all, our middle schools have the vape detectors? And does STEP have a vape detector?
Yes.
or-
Well, we have it on the bus
Okay,
for STEP Academy.
okay.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
Moving forward, our intake procedures at STEP, that's pretty much the same thing as our registration process. So, of course, we have our intake process taking place every day, starting at 8:15 in the morning through 10:15. And if students are there, they get credited for the days, because remember at STEP, they go by days. As per the attendance policy, if students arrive after 10:15, they will lose credit for that day, okay? Unless, of course, they come with a doctor's excuse, a very valid probation officer, court. As long as they bring us documentation, we will give them credit for that day. We do have required documents at STEP Academy whenever we do registration, pretty much the same thing that we do at every campus. They must complete a packet. We need the ID, current bill, nothing different from what we have in all of our campuses. We are very strict with our behavior management, so they are given a manila folder where they track their points in their sheets. Of course, basic supplies that we ask from everyone. And then one of the things that we do when parents arrive is they have to go through an informative video presentation at STEP. It is a PowerPoint that is available in English and in Spanish, and it pretty much has all of the details for them. This campus is very high on implementing the campus mission and the vision, and PBIS expectations are also strictly enforced, the dress code as well. And so pretty much students must purchase a shirt. It's $15. They do have specifics for middle school and high school, and so very strict on their attire.
And in regards to that, to the $15 T-shirt, I know it's something that I've spoken to Mr. Gonzalez and Mr. Aguilar, right? Because again, these are students that face unique challenges, right? Some even are at poverty level, right? And $15 can be a lot, right? So is there anything that we can do as a board or as a district to provide that shirt for our kids?
Or better yet, why not just a regular school T-shirt, school dress code? Why does it have to be a special T-shirt?
I think they do that just for safety reasons, to make sure that they're not wearing anything else.
I mean, if it's free, I understand that, but if you're gonna make them pay for it?
I think they also do it to distinguish the students from the ones that are back in the home campus. Remember that our bus situation, they'll drop them off, very close to where they live or at their home. And so, it's really to distinguish the students.
So they take the same buses as?
No, we have a designated bus, right? But when they're dropped off, they are dropped off within their community. So it doesn't stop students from, possibly walking to the campus or something like that. So it just helps us distinguish the students. And it also creates order at the campus. That has been something that, they've been doing for a while now. It has been working for them. It has not presented a challenge. I think there are students that maybe do not have a shirt, but the school will provide for them if they need to. They might have, other shirts that they can give them for the time being.
It's not going to exclude them from STEP Academy.
I'm sorry?
It's not going to exclude them, but they're not going to get additional time or anything
Yeah.
like that.
No.
And just putting, simple math, if you took your top enrollment times 15, $5,000, I think the district can pull that off.
Yeah.
That's not gonna break the district.
I agree with Ms. Oliveros, just because I know some of these kids, $5, right? Single mothers, $15 is a lot for them. So if we can assist in that, I think that would be a step moving forward, right? To support these students. And in regards to the intake procedures, because I know that we had received a packet, right? Approximately how long does this intake procedure take, and who does the intake procedure?
It's actually a process. They go through, of course, registration. They need to go through the nurse. They need to go through the counselor. And then they also meet with the director. I think that's part of the success at that particular campus, that they meet with an administrator and kind of go over the rules and all of that with the parents. So it is a process. And it just kind of depends on every individual student. It can be, I would say, within 45, 50 minutes, or it could last maybe up to an hour and a half. It just kind of depends on, the individual case.
And so I know there was talks in regards to the academic coordinator position being removed, right? But I see now that it'll still be there, right? And I'm assuming that now the academic coordinator, that individual will split, right? I saw it on the slide, academic coordinator / residential facilities, right?
Yes.
And so let's just say on a normal day, right? Normal day, the intake procedure is going along, right? But there's a fight at step. How is that handled? How many security guards do we have? How many police officers do we have in the campus?
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you very much. So, good afternoon, Board of Trustees. For the record, Mr. Hiroa, Director of STEP Academy. Yes, to answer first the question regarding the shirts, one thing that we do is we work very closely with the McKinney Vento program. So we do allow the parents to make contact with them, because we feel that we need to make sure that we support our students. So that's one. Going back to the question that you are asking, we want to make sure that the intake procedures take place accordingly. That way they know the expectations. But when there is disruption in the daily operations, we need to make sure that our students know and that our parents know and our school community that there's systems in place. So we do have individuals that respond accordingly. We do have 5 securities and 2 police officers. Our number one goal is to make sure that we have a male and female, to make sure that if there is some type of de-escalation strategies or technique that needs to be in place, that it needs to be either female to female or male to male, to make sure that we de-escalate the incident or the issue going on ahead.
Perfect. Okay, so I guess an intake procedure can take about, 45 minutes, an hour to 2 hours, or it just depends?
Correct. So our number one priority is to review the packet when we get the placements, because every single individual student is very different. Whether it be a discretionary or mandatory placement, what we want to do is, 1, review the packet, and then see what options we have for interventions. Because when they bring in the student, we want to see, is there counseling services that needs to be in place? Is there a related service that needs to be in place? Is there a 504 IEP that needs to be followed? Is there a special education IEP that needs to be followed? If there was substance usage in one type of their career in that high school or middle school, then we want to make sure that we align the LCDC counselor to be the support. Do they need outside counseling? So I know one of the questions that was asked earlier, what type of support? We make sure that we have a scan. We have 3 programs in place to make sure that interventions are in place as a priority. Now we have Pillar and MOU. Thank you, Dr. Cruz, for supporting with Pillar. That way we have counseling sessions at no cost when they go back to their campus. That service is being followed at no cost as long as they are a student here at UISD.
Perfect. And thank you for that, Mr. Hidrogo, for your time and for being here. So one more question, and Ms. Cruz, you can answer, or Mr. Hidrogo. Let's just say we saw the spike, right? The months that are spiking, right? I just want to have information. How is the in-classroom setting, right? Do you have all high school together, all middle school together? Do you maybe need more teachers during those months? Or what is it that you see or that you might think would provide more support for these students?
I think what we're seeing is what we see at the regular campus. You know, you're going to have these spikes during these particular months. It's just bound to happen, right? During spring break, right before the holidays, at a certain time in October. So those are kind of things that we will normally see. In terms of what we see in the classroom there, we have a good ratio. We have good counseling support. We have, you know, a middle school counselor, high school counselor, then we have the LCDC counselor. So I think in terms of support, we're pretty good. I don't know, is there anything other?
Well, I'm just asking, and I'm by no means, right, attacking a program or anything. It's just I think these presentations are important, right, so we can evaluate the effectiveness of what we're doing. And so going back to that, right, I know that these students, right, they count for sometimes 3-4 students because of their emotional disturbances and their maybe addictions, right, and aggressiveness. So that's why I'm asking these questions. But really, you know, just want to make sure that STEP has the support because yes, they might have 1,000 students, right, throughout the whole year, but those, what is it, 45 students, right, 6th grade, 45 students in May, those might count for 80 or 100. So to me, right, it's important to make sure that our student-to ratio is appropriate, right? So I think that's something also that we need to start looking into moving forward.
Absolutely. And I think we do look at the student-to-teacher ratio as a matter of fact, and you'll see in a couple of slides, we've added a lot of support at STEP. I think we've been doing a really good job in terms of that. And of course, I have to give a lot of credit to the leadership of Mr. Hidrogo and his staff. They really do an amazing job there. And so, so just kind of moving forward with the presentation, if you'll see, we do have a middle school, a high school counselor, and then an LCDC counselor on top of that. So in terms of support, you know, I think they have very good people there, and the support is pretty adequate.
Yeah, and I do want to add again, right, the academic coordinator was not removed, so now they will still have the support, right? Just that individual will split the duties, correct?
Absolutely. And that's in trying to support, you know, because we recognize it's just that sometimes we're strapped with, you know, what can we do? We may not have the financial means, right, to have all the staff that we would want, but we're trying to do the best that we can with the staff that we have. And I think at STEP Academy, they really do utilize their people in the best way.
But it stands to reason that if the population there is going to go down, going to decrease because of the changes in the law, then that ratio that you're talking about will decrease the number of employees, you know, naturally because of this, the decrease in population. There will decrease naturally the population of employees.
And we're always looking at, you know, evaluating staff and what we have. So that's something that we do.
It's a double-edged sword. You gotta be careful.
It's good. It may be good, right?
But again, you know, you have to also take into consideration that these are not kids like your general population, right? These are kids that, again, they face these unique challenges like drug addiction, right? Some have created offenses of assault. I know the number was very high of kids getting caught with alcohol, and that's alarming, right? Because they're minors, and so these are maybe children who develop addiction as adults, right? So I think we have to be careful.
I don't know, though, I mean, and I don't respect what Ms. Martinez is saying. I just don't know if I have the data to actually say that these kids count for 2 or 3 times a normal. If that's true, then they also count for 2 or 3 times the students at the main campus. And so, you know, I don't know, there's a lot of challenges everywhere, whether it's emotional, there's drugs, but there are also a lot of kids who make that one mistake and vape. They may not qualify because they've had a referral, so they don't qualify for the U-First program. But they're not necessarily, you know, they don't face a lot of other challenges. You know, I know firsthand, you know, 5 families I can tell you. My own nephew, you know, 2 and a niece have both been to Step Academy because they've made bad decisions.
One mistake.
And so, but they're not challenged. There's a sanction that goes with their error, and they have to go through the process. And I think that's the issue. My problem that I have is not so much the Step Academy. You know, I don't think our teachers need to be dealing with discipline issues. They have to be teaching in the classroom. They need to be focused in there. When we have individuals who are interfering with the education of not only of the teaching of the teacher, but the education of the other 20-some odd students in that class, and that presents a problem. And so I think most of our directors, most of our principals are very nurturing, and I think they do everything they can so the student does not go to the Step Academy. And they try to hold them back and refer them to in-school suspension, try to work with their parents, try to, you know, do as much as they can. So they don't go to the Step Academy because they, you know, at the end of the day, these principals they were teachers at one time, and they work with kids. But at the same time, I'm a former juvenile judge, so I can tell you that I've got the tough love, you know, type of attitude sometimes, and they have to face that sanction, and they have to face it the first time. If not, they're not going to respect the process, and they're going to continue to create problems at the schools. And so now we need more security, more police officers. Our teachers are having to deal with discipline issues in the classroom, and so I get it. I'm a defense attorney, you know, and I've argued on that side. I argue that every day, but when you look at the campuses, the times are changing, and you know our teachers are struggling to maintain a lot of order in their classrooms, and they need that support. And when there are unruly kids, unruly students who disrespect the process, who are, you know, who are taking vapes and you know, coming to school under the influence, who are disrespectful, you know, how do you deal with that? And the same teachers will refer them to the principal sometimes, and guess what? They refer them back to the classroom. And then so what happens? The student doesn't get a sanction, and he feels like, you know, it's okay. It's empowering for him. And so I don't know what Matt has my full support. He always has. The Step Academy is there. We've implemented U-First programs. We should actually increase that. I don't even know why it hasn't increased in the years, but you know, we should increase programs like that. And I'm glad he's got Pillar and Scan and all these. That's what we need there. And I hope we can keep the numbers down. That's what we're trying to do. Mm-hmm. But you know, that's just my take on it.
Yeah,
I
and
just
there's
want to
other,
add something about that to your comment, just real quick, that again, House Bill 6 was a very heavy bill. There's a lot in there. But one of the things that we're going to be able to do through that House bill is they expanded the authority of administrators assigning a longer in-school suspension, for example, and that helps our classroom teachers, it helps our administrators, because sometimes you have those kids, again, that are not necessarily needing to go to STEP, but they're, you know, unruly, or, you know, they're having some issues. We need to issue a consequence of maybe 3 days is not enough of in-school suspension, so they're going to be able to do a little bit longer. So I just wanted to add that to your comment, Mr. Montemayor, because again, our teachers are really struggling, and we are making sure that we're supporting them as well, and making sure that we're not taking the opportunity from other kids in the classroom to learn. They have that right as well. So.
And I think to piggyback off of what Mr. Montemayor said, which you're correct, right? We need to support our are in teacher classrooms as well. And with that, right, the numbers will pretty much decrease and there'll be more in-school suspension. So I'd like to see if we can get that once the school starts, to get a report as to how it's affecting our district. And then maybe later on, we can make decisions as far as how much more support, right, our district needs to help our teachers in the classroom.
Absolutely, thank you. Moving forward, the LCDC counselor, just so that you know, we do have a lot of individual sessions that go into our counseling at STEP. We also have the ROPES and the You First program, and then referrals by the administrators where they kind of see the students and the parents at the same time, and you kind of see there's a lot of support in terms of that. And then when we look at actual testing, we did have, and I'm giving you just a snippet of our spring testing, so you can see pretty much the number of testers that they have at the high school. It ranges between 21 through about 52 students. You know, it just depends on the subject area. And then you'll see the absences there. In the middle school, also the basic, notice that math and reading have the most number, because keep in mind, we test 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And in the science and the social studies, we only test our 8th graders. So that's why you see those different numbers. In our TELPAS, we had about 143 testers with no absences.
And in regards to that, what is the district plan to monitor and close any achievement gaps, right, between students in the disciplinary setting and the overall student population in regards to the STAR and the regular core?
Our students pretty much follow the same curriculum that all the other students follow. We do have a scope and sequence that they will work through. We have students, especially at the high school, that have certain classes that we do not offer at STEP, and so we make arrangements with the home campus to work through a Google Classroom with those particular students. So there's always an effort to, you know, really work individualized. I can tell you that at STEP Academy, they have really worked at working with the students, working with the teachers to make sure that the instruction is solid.
But it still falls back on the referring campus. It still counts. That student still counts.
Oh, absolutely.
To the referring
Yes, when we, and that's why it's really important that we have that solid
So
communication.
that's
And
why they don't
so-
want to, that's why they don't want them there, because
Yes.
they want them, it affects them.
At the end of the day, when you send a student to STEP, the accountability is still going to be going back to the campus. So you want to minimize the number of STEP placements, but at the same time, you need to maintain a solid campus, right? And sometimes it's necessary to send a student to STEP. And so, you know, I think our administrators do an amazing job in terms of trying to keep their students the best way that they can, but sometimes it's just inevitable. You really do need to send the student.
And there's testing going on all year round, correct, at STEP, or is it?
Well, we have testing, just like the state testing, like everyone else, right? December is for our high school students, they will test as well, and then you have the spring testing. But they will also do like our checkpoints and all of the requirements that we have of any student, they continue to do them as well at STEP.
Perfect, thank you.
And then finally, our supports to STEP, we have increased support throughout the years with added staff just to make sure that students are successful there. And so you can see throughout the year the number of positions that have been added just to help us maintain a safe environment and a very a conducive environment to learning. And so you can kind of see throughout the years the different staff members that have been added. And I have to say that, you know, I want to congratulate Mr. Hidrogo and his staff for doing an amazing job. They really do go all out to keep our students safe.
He does. And if I can add to that, you know, I have sat through an intake with Mr. Hidrogo, and I've been to his campus, and I've seen the students walk the halls, and I've seen the students come through security. And maybe in the public's head right now, what they're envisioning is an unruly school with all these dangerous kids, and it is so not that. Mr. Hidrogo has those students at a high level of respect for himself and for all of the other staff that are there. It is so well-managed, and I congratulate you for that, because it's not what people might be thinking based on what's been said here. It's a very organized, and his students are very well-behaved.
Well, I don't think anything negative was said. I'm sorry, Mr. President, if I may. I don't think anything negative was said. You know, it's just, these questions were just asked to make sure that we're running, right, an effective program, which we are, right? But it's good to always monitor and track to make sure that we're moving forward in the right place, and that, you know, Mr. Hidrogo, he is doing an amazing job. I know STEP was ranked, I don't know if quote me if I'm wrong, but I know they were the highest, right, in attendance district-wide. So that speaks volumes, you know, because it is hard to get these kids to school. And yes, there might be kids who are first-time offenders, right, who messed up and are there, right, to pay their dues. But there are kids who are there as repeated offenders and who are there because of their social environments, right? So I don't think anything, people don't think negative about this.
Well, my
program.
words were not directed toward you.
Oh, no,
so
I'm
don't take
just-
offense to my
I'm
words.
not taking offense, Ms. Oliveros. I'm just, you know, saying that because I don't think the public thinks that. I just think
We
it's
don't know what the
important.
public thinks.
I just think it's important that we have these questions and these presentations
Well,
so we can monitor.
I could say from experience, I'm just going to jump in there real quick. Michelle Molina, present for the record. Mr. Hidrogo, I commend you. I've been to your campus multiple times since I came onto the board, since you were appointed there. You've done remarkable things with that campus. You've turned that campus around from the image of that campus. Externally, it looks totally different. Internally, you walk in, it looks like an academic school. It looks like there's instruction happening. There is absolutely PBIS going on. And that's why many of us on this board have contributed funds to your endeavors, to the initiatives that you have implemented from PBIS, from attendance, and we see it. The numbers don't lie. The teachers, what you've cultivated there, the respect that you've earned, how you connect with those students. And let me tell you, doesn't matter what campus you're at, this is one of the most difficult campuses only because these are kids that need more attention. And they respect you, they admire you, and I've seen it. I've been there through presentations, through class exchanges, through dismissals. I've been there, and I can tell you, they admire you. They don't want to leave at the end of the day. They look forward to those Fridays that you've implemented, you know, for the snacks, you know, the awards that you've given them for going above and beyond, for meeting all the needs, right, for every 6 weeks or for every week that they're there. There's a lot that you've implemented. There's a lot that you've done. And I'm still pending that course, the outdoors course that you have. So the ropes. So I commend you for all that you've done. I reviewed this presentation in depth. I've gone back and I've reviewed the numbers that you've presented before, that I've been there personally, you know, to give motivational speeches, to inspire our students, like many of us on this board have throughout the years, and I commend you for that. So thank you for this presentation. It's very much needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, for the record, we have Ms. Dianelli Martinez present, Ms. Michelle Molina present, Mr. Gilbert Aguilar present. And so thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz. Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 8, closed session. The time is 6:59. In accordance with Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, .072, .074, the board will discuss items 8A through 8C. No action will be taken in closed session. Thank you. Everybody be? All right, open session, agenda item number 9. The board has reconvened from closed session, and we're now in open session. The time is 7:14. For the record, no action was taken in closed session. Agenda item 9A, possible action with respect to the lawsuit filed by Potential Holdings LLC against United Independent School District regarding the United ISD Student Activity Complex Educational Support Center, filed of record in volume 21, pages 43 through 44 of the Webb County Plat Records, and the UISD Las Cruces School Plat filed in volume 18, page 55 of the Plat Records of Webb County, Texas, and Santa Claudia Lane and Santa Monica Drive within the UISD SAC plat and matters incident thereto, including legal options available to UISD. The suit was filed in the District Court of the 111th Judicial District of Webb County, Texas, under cause number 2023 CVG 151D2.
Yes, Mr. President, the recommended action on that is to allow legal counsel to proceed as discussed in closed session.
So moved.
Second.
There's motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Agenda item 9B, possible action regarding the appointment of assistant principal at Octavio Salinas Elementary School.
For the position of assistant principal at Salinas Elementary School, I recommend Cipriana Gaitan.
There's a
Second.
motion and a
Second.
second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Congratulations.
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 Agenda item 9C, possible action regarding the appointment of assistant principal at John B. Alexander High School.
For the position of assistant principal at J.B. Alexander High School, I recommend Georgina Hernandez.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Agenda item 9D, possible action regarding the appointment of assistant principal at United South High School.
For the position of assistant principal at United South High School, I recommend Ardiana Cardenas.
So move.
It's a motion
Second.
and a second. All those, any further discussion? I'm sorry. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes. Congratulations.
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 Agenda item 9E, possible action regarding the appointment of Director of Health Services.
For the position of Director of Health Services, I recommend Jessica Duarte.
So moved.
Second.
It's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Congratulations.
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 Agenda item 9F, possible action regarding the appointment of Director of Facilities, Maintenance, and Operations.
For the position of Director of Facilities, Maintenance, and Operations, I recommend Dorian Gutierrez.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Congratulations, Mr. Gutierrez.
Congratulations.
And
And I know Ms. Cardenas is here, right? Is she here? Yeah, so
She's up there.
congratulations,
Congratulations.
Ms. Cardenas. Good luck.
agenda item number 10, adjournment. Any motion?
Motion.
Motion second, third, and we are adjourned.
Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you very much, everyone.